Hey guys, this is the second time around. Sorry we had a little technical difficulties. However, I'm in the shop and we're ready to build this simple outdoor bench. I'm gonna flip the camera around and hand it over to Jamie so that she can get me doing this. So I won't be able to see your comments. However, for this bench, we're gonna be using 2x6x8s, 3 of those, and then 2 2x4x8s. Now, the legs, I've gone ahead and cut down most of the wood that we're gonna need. And for the legs, we're gonna add a little taper to those just to make them, dress them up and make them look nice. So what I'm gonna be doing for that is I will grab my tape measure and I will measure in. Now, obviously I've got my board clamped here. Then I'm gonna measure in 4 inches from the end. And then we're gonna go up 10 inches. Then I'm going to take my straight edge and we're going to strike a straight line across there. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Jameson with Rogue Engineer. I used to be an aerospace engineer and I just kind of took up woodworking and working on the house and stuff like that. And it kind of become a little bit of a passion of mine. And from then we kind of spiraled into a website and all this stuff, what it is now. So, but getting back to the build, we're gonna make this tapered cut now, and I'm gonna do so with the circular saw. Now, when you're preparing to make this cut, you're gonna wanna make sure that you set your blade depth just so that the teeth are just barely coming through the bottom, and that's gonna be the safest way to cut this board. You're also gonna wanna make sure that the motor side of the saw is on the side that you're keeping. That way, when this falls off, your saw doesn't get wobbly. So let's go ahead and put our hearing protection in, and we're gonna make this cut. We might be out of juice. Like I said before, I'm gonna go get a new battery. We actually ran through this project already once, so we've used up the life of this battery. I'm gonna go grab one really quick. Actually, we've got some right back here. Okay, so that is our tapered cut. Now, to cut this down to the final length, I'm gonna flip it around. Again, clamping the good end of my board to the workbench. And then we're gonna come down here, and this foot is going to be 15.5 inches long. So we're gonna measure down here, 15.5 inches. And we're gonna make that cut. But before we're gonna make sure that this is a nice 90-degree line. So we'll use our speed square to mark that. All right, so again, to save some time, I've gone ahead and made all of these tapered leg cuts, but you'll see that's kind of what the leg looks like. And there is the bench that we are building. So we'll have 4 of these that we need to cut out. Next up is our frame. So you would do the same with your circular saw or miter saw if you have one. If you got a miter saw, that's definitely gonna speed up the process. So we're gonna cut down 2x4s, 2 at 57 inches, and then 3 at 11 inches. Now, before we attach these to together, we're gonna wanna make sure that we pre-drill the holes in that so that the wood doesn't split. Now, when you're drilling, I've gone ahead and pre-drilled these. When you're drilling through the end of a board, the board is gonna wanna split along the grain. So pre-drilling will make sure that that doesn't happen. So like I said, I've already gone ahead and pre-drilled those boards. And just to make sure everything kind of stays together nicely, I'm going to clamp these together. And I've gone ahead and marked center. We've got that 2x4 in the center. That looks good. We'll grab another clamp that all together. And what this does is it really just prevents the pieces from sliding around when you're trying to screw them together. Then we can take our big C-clamp and we'll clamp this to the workbench just to further ensure that we don't have anything sliding around. Now, for this project, I used cedar, and cedar is pretty accessible around us. However, like I said, you could use untreated lumber and then paint it or stain and seal it with an exterior sealer. Or you could just use pressure-treated lumber and leave it outside. But cedar looks great, it ages nicely, and I just like the look of it. Plus, it's a nice lighter wood that will just be easy to move this bench around when we want to. So we're going to be using 3-inch wood screws to attach through this. If you get carried away with your drill and you want to drill too far through, in the next coming steps, you're going to want to use 2.5-inch wood screws just to make sure you don't come through the outside. So we will go ahead and screw this frame together. 2 screws at each joint. All right, so we got that screwed together so we can get rid of these clamps. And now it is time to attach our legs. Now, like I said before, the legs are those tapered 2x6s that we just cut. And it's gonna look something like this. So the tapers are gonna go towards the inside. And then we've got a little, just a piece of 2x4 that's just gonna fill that in between those 2 legs and just kind of make that look a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. So in order to keep all that in place while we're screwing it together, we are going to clamp this 2x4 to the workbench. So everything is nice and kind of locked in there. And then again, we'll use our 3-inch wood screws from the inside to make sure that everything stays right where we want it. Now this is that step that I was talking about earlier where if you get a little heavy-handed with the impact, you're going to want to make sure you go with 2.5-inch wood screws. Since you only got 3 inches of material here, you could easily come through the other side. All right, so we got one side down. Take that clamp off. We're gonna flip this bad boy around. And then we're gonna get our legs in place. What do we do here? All right. So we get these legs in place. Kind of push our frame up against it to make sure everything's nice and locked in there. And then we'll use our C-clamp again to lock our base in place. Now the tools I'm using for this project are the new Ryobi HP tools. This is kind of like a subcompact impact and drill, and I really like them. They're lighter weight. They're just nice for the shop. Especially somewhere where I don't need a ton of power, even though they are still very powerful. completes the base. Now we can flip this thing around and set that on the ground. Now we've got our 2x6s that we're going to use for the top. And these, I believe, are going to have a 1-inch overhang on the sides and then 2 inches of overhang on the ends. So what I use is just a carpenter's pencil, and that spaces these out pretty nicely, and then just makes it make sure that they're nice and uniform. Okay, so with that in place, then we can start in the middle, securing this thing to the frame. Misjudged that one. So like I said, the plans for this will be on Ryobi Nation. You can go to ryobitools.com/nation, and they should be on the home page right now. If you want to know more about the tools that I'm using, then you can just go to ryobitools.com. And if you want a bunch of other plans that are similar to this or even more in depth, I've got a bunch of plans on my site, rogueengineer.com. And that completes this bench build. I love the fact that it only requires 5 boards to build this and just 3 power tools. So this is like a perfect project for somebody that's just looking to get into woodworking. And woodworking is one of those hobbies that is just kind of gives you somewhere to kind of get rid of or forget about everything that's going on in the world. So if you can get out in the shop and build something, I think that is a good thing to do. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a great evening. Thanks for tuning in. And until next time, be safe and happy building.